Hey everyone, this week OpenAI just released a ton of big news and updates, and among them there are two major things that stands out most for me. Number one is custom GPT, where you can now create or use chats that others have created. And early access users are already creating custom chats that are so mind-blowing. But what I think really truly stands out most for me is the new GPT-4 Turbo that has 128,000 context window size. It is also said that this new model can accommodate up to 300 pages worth of text in a single prompt. And best of all, it's 3 times cheaper. So today, I will be experimenting with this new GPT-4 1106 model, which is a preview model of the actual GPT-4 Turbo. And I will be using it alongside with the newly upgraded Playground by Openai, where you can now create AI assistants as templates. So this video will be slightly long, do bear with me, and use the timestamps below to skip on ahead if you have already tried the new Playground by OpenAI. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so what you're seeing here is OpenAI's Playground. This is the link to access Playground. I will put this link in the description below so you can access it and use it at your own free time. So basically, this is how Playground look like. For those of you who has already been using Playground in the past, you will notice that the current UI and the current layout has totally changed. So in order to access the old modes in the old Playground, right, you can still toggle it via this menu button over here. The chat, complete, and edit functions are still there. And for some of you, this might look more familiar, which is the chat function of Playground. However, I will urge everyone to start using the assistance mode as it is really powerful. Alright, so right off the bat, you will see over here that you can create assistant, and there are already pre-made assistants that I've created, and you will see that there are settings over here. But before I go into the nitty-gritty, I think there are just some additional pages that I might just want to touch and go, especially to help you navigate around better. So on the first selection over here, which is this very page that I'm on, basically here, apart from the settings, right, you will see that there's an empty box here. This is known as a thread. So over here, a thread is the same as a chat. Instead of chat, they use this word thread. I'm not so sure why, but that is the new name from now on. The message that you key in will appear under the thread, and also the responses as well. So this is where you engage with the AI model that you have selected. On the second page, which is assistants, by clicking on it, you will be able to see a whole list of assistants that you have created. Their name along with their custom instructions, with their ID and the date created and so on. So it will be in a table format. Every single assistant that you have created will all be listed here. You can also click on this plus create button here to have the same options as what you see in Playground, right? And you can just create your new assistant here as well. Apart from this, moving on to the next option here, which is threads. Threads are basically, like I've mentioned, the chat conversation that you have with the AI. So over here, it keeps a history of all the conversations you have had with the AI. By clicking on it, you will be able to see the old chats or thread, which is the conversations along with their responses and also your prompts. So this is just basically a history. There is also a thread ID here, which I am not sure what it's used for, but I believe if you explore the documentation, there should be a use for it. In this case, I haven't really yet explored that, right? Apart from threads, there's also the fine-tuning page where you are able to fine-tune the AI model on top of their base model. So this is probably something that I don't really use at this moment because it's a little bit too advanced for me. But I've seen how people use these to train the GPT models on top of certain customized fine-tuning. It could be more specific for your business or for your company, where you train the GPT models on top of certain information that is specific to your business, to the products or services that you're selling. So say if you're creating a chatbot for your company, then probably you might need to fine-tune the GPT models to be aligned with your company's products and services. So that's probably one of the use cases of fine-tuning. There are many other ways, but it's just a little bit too advanced for me, so I haven't really hopped onto this yet, but this is really very powerful because it's now a part of Playground as well. And then the next one is API keys, where you can access this page to control, to revoke, or to add API keys. I will not go into that due to privacy reasons. I'll just move on to the next one, which is files. So under files, everything that you have uploaded in the Playground, under the threads, if you have uploaded any information that you want the model to read or analyze, it will all be recorded here. You can also click on this upload button here to upload manually. Apart from that, the next one is usage, right? So usage over here, I just want to show you that the cost of using GPT-4 Turbo is actually not high at all. I've been running several experiments and it only cost me about $1.49. Even on a high usage day, in fact, when I'm using GPT-4 on a high usage day, it's only about $10. It's still actually rather cheap considering I've run on this day using GPT-4 on experiments that uses autonomous AI agents, which is like our AutoGen, where I've created a bunch of AIs and they talk to one another to complete a more complicated task. So that will be in another future video coming soon. But even running all these experiments is only cost me about like $10. So in your case, if you don't run experiments a lot and just use GPT models for your own daily work, it will definitely be a lot lower than this. So that's just the usage. I will not dive in much on the rest, but it's basically something that you can come in and just run it through yourself. The last page here is settings. I will not go much into detail on this because it's just settings that you set up for your team to invite your teammates and also on billing and stuff. So it's pretty self-explanatory. You can look into this yourself. Apart from that, on the left sidebar, there's also a documentation and a help here. Documentation, I've read it a little bit. It is really comprehensive, so do check it out. There are a lot of use cases and functions that I haven't even covered yet, but it is just very comprehensive, so do check it out, right? And then, of course, there's a help where you can get support. So circling back to Playground, the settings over here are right off the bat is basically the same stuff that you see in ChatGPT, especially if you're a ChatGPT Plus user and you have used custom instructions before. This works almost exactly the same. But the greatest factor that I love about Playground Assistance mode is that you could now create multiple templates and multiple roles. So for example, on this SEO internal link architect, I basically created these with a set of custom instructions that I've reverse engineered based on some of these SEO internal linking best practices and format it into like a profile or like a persona that I can place into these custom instructions so that as and when I need internal link support or I need internal link for my daily work, I could just call upon this SEO internal link architect and start running my prompts to get it to work on my projects or help me with my daily work. So this is what I like about having multiple assistants. You could create as many as you want, right? Like a social media expert, just put in the instructions for the best practices that you want and just a simple prompt. It can base off these instructions using the instructions as context to give you consistency in their response, right? And this is how you can start using these effectively on your work. And all you need to do is just to switch multiple assistant. So apart from name instructions, which is really pretty self-explanatory, name is just what you want to call your AI. You can call them anything, right? Even your girlfriend's name, anyone's name, even your own name. When it responds, it just basically use that name to respond to you. In this case, I've used social media expert because this is meant for social media. For instructions wise, you can expand these and just input in a huge amount of text. In my other assistants, I've added quite a huge amount of text over here. I've give it like multiple examples of how I want my answers to be written. And also I put in a whole chunk of best practices as well. And it's still able to go through. So I haven't really tested the limits of how much text these custom instructions can hold. But if I'm not wrong, it's pretty good enough. You can put in a bunch of very specific rules to the task that you want to run. Or you can put in like best practices and get ChatGPT or GPT, depending on what you're using. You can use a chat version, ChatGPT Plus, or you can use these GPT models to reverse engineer some of these best practices that you find online, get it to format it and write it in a form of a persona, and then you can just put it into this instruction box here. In this case, I'm just going to keep it simple. For models wise, you can choose any one of these models here. I'll specifically just go for the GPT-4 1106. This is the GPT-4 Turbo model. The full version of GPT-4 Turbo is not fully rolled out yet. What you're getting here is just the preview mode. So you might get into errors and stuff like that, or it might not be able to fully capture so much context in the context window. I've tried it out. I do have some problems when it comes to like huge amounts of text. But in this case, you are only getting a glimpse of what GPT-4 Turbo is like. So I will still encourage you to select this. Under tools, there are three very powerful functions. Okay, we have number one, which is functions here. It is actually a function calling capability. So like for example, this is the default OpenAI's example, which is get weather, right? To determine the weather in a location. Based on the context of your prompts, they realize that you need to know what's the weather. They will pull all this real-time data from these APIs and display this information in their response. Next is code interpreter. I think a lot of you probably will be familiar. Currently in ChatGPT Plus, they have renamed code interpreter to advanced data analysis, which is your ADA. I do not know why over here they still use code interpreter. But basically, if you are creating code or you're creating charts and stuff, based on the context of your prompts, if the AI realizes that it needs to run Python in a virtual environment, it will trigger the code interpreter. So by turning this on, it just simply means that whatever that you upload, if you want to run analyses, you want to plot charts, or you create an expert senior Python developer and you want him to diagnose your code, they might just activate code interpreter and run all your prompts through a Python virtual sandbox or virtual environment where it will just run code, right? So this is extremely powerful. Do always turn it on. And then lastly, there's this thing called retrieval. So I think this is very much tied to this new AI technique called RAG, which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. So this basically is an AI technique to retrieve information from documentation just to help the AI to keep up to date or to stay up to date with the latest information through retrieving information from these documentations that you upload. Of course, again, it will depend on your prompts. Based on the context of your prompts, the AI might see whether if it's necessary to retrieve information from the document. Just a quick side note, retrieval can only be turned on if you are using GPT-4 1106. If you use GPT-4 or anything else, you can't turn on the retrieval mode. Apart from that, lastly, there's an upload function. So by uploading a document or a best practice or any kind of files, it will go under files as well. So this is where you upload either a set of instructions or you can upload anything, right? Maybe even a white paper in order for the retrieval to take place when you prompt it. So we are going to move on to part 2 where I start to run some experiments and to show you this GPT-4 Turbo in action. Okay, so moving on to part 2, I will be running a couple of experiments and also show you some of these custom instructions or custom AI assistants that I've created. I will also put all these instructions in a link below. So as and when, if any of you is interested to reuse some of these assistants and custom instructions for your own work, feel free to do that. I will start off with something simple, and that is this Google snippet writer, right? So for those of you who do not know, I'm an SEO by profession, and SEO stands for search engine optimization. So basically, I help my company to optimize their website so that they can rank and get visibility from the search engines. So part of the job is to create content, and also we do have methods and techniques to rank better. And one of these techniques is known as a Google snippet. So for those of you who do not know what's a Google snippet, basically if you search for informational content or informational keyword, sometimes you will see something like that. If I search for what is Pepecoin, so Pepecoin basically is more of a cryptocurrency, it's a meme coin, right? And by searching for queries or keywords like that, very often Google will display a featured snippet over here. So these featured snippets are what they call a best answer for your query, and they pick it up from all these various websites, right? And obviously there is a reason why they pick this up. So obviously I want this real estate over here because it's the #1 spot, right? So this real estate becomes very valuable. Hence, as part of my job is to analyze this content over here and find similarities between all the different snippets that Google picked out. So that's exactly what I did. I went on to find all the featured snippet, and I took 10 of them from different various coins. I put them into a document. I get ChatGPT to reverse engineer to find out what is the tonality, what is the style of the writing, and also just to find similarities, right? So once I reverse engineer, I've also got ChatGPT to create it in a format of a persona, which I would then be able to reuse it over here. Based on analyzing all these 10 examples, this is what they provide, right? They tell me the tone is very informative, very descriptive, aiming to clearly explain complex cryptocurrency concepts in simple manner, right? And then the writing style is very straightforward, very concise approach, presenting facts in a precise and coherent way. And more importantly, these statements, they are very basic definitions, but followed by very detailed information. that communicates the main offerings, and more importantly, the sentences are built logically, each typically containing a key piece of information of the subject. So this is the type of writing that, or rather the similarity between all these featured snippets, right? So once I convert all these into a persona of the best practices and also the examples, I now have with me a set of custom instructions that can act as context whenever I create a task. So if say like I want to create a feature snippet for another coin, right? I could just simply put the coin and paste some additional context about that coin. Based off this format and this tone of writing and all these examples, they will give me a somewhat similar snippet of text. So essentially what I have with me is a set of instructions that will be able to replicate the style of writing, tonality of writing, and give me a short, very succinct passage that has a high potential of ranking in search engines at the top, because now I've basically trained the AI based off the examples here to create that top quality short snippet that Google's favors more. Okay, so that's exactly what I did. Once I've created these, all I need to do is just to simply just go to any other coin that I'm writing, for example, Ethereum. I just need to copy down the content to be used as context so they are able to take information from here and piece together a short snippet with the most important key points, right? Once I have this information, all I need to do is just go back to my playground and I just need to give them this piece of context, and I'll just say that here is the context for what is Ethereum. And I'm just going to put in my triple quotes and fill in the content here. So now I've placed between the triple quotes the context of this Ethereum, right? And at the end, I will just need to create that task, which is to generate, or rather create a Google snippet. Okay, and I can just run this. So a simple task will do. There's no need for additional context. And there you have it, right? I think this is more like a header followed by the content here. And it just gives me a very short snippet, a very succinct passage with the most important key points. Because the context that I've provided is pretty huge, they might not have picked out the most important points, but we can always get it to give me 5 variations or 4 variations or 3 variations, right? And I can just choose from there which is the one that I think is more important for the user. So I can just use this as a short snippet in my long form content, and hopefully search engines like Google will run through my site, pick this succinct paragraph out as one of the better answers that they think is better for the user. And what's even more powerful is that once I figure out how to do function calling, I could then use JSON to create like a function call to an external API, like maybe my CoinMarketCap or my CoinGecko, where they provide all this information here in real time. So by doing that, if I'm able to call all this information back, I would be able to then probably even cut short the whole process. I might not even need to provide the context of that coin. All I need is probably just the name of the coin. It will then call all the information that I require and create the short succinct snippet that I need. So this is just one example. There are definitely a lot of use case and ways that you can expand on from this example. And now with the larger context window, I probably think that you would be able to fill these instructions with examples from your competitors' websites and then put them together, get the best practices of content writing, and maybe even create a really good piece of content using just Playground. I haven't really tested that out yet, but I may in the future. Right now, let's just move on to our third experiment. Okay, so before I begin, let me just clear off the thread over here. For this experiment, it will be slightly more complicated because what I'm expecting the AI to do is to edit on an existing file. I'm expecting for it to analyze the content within my document, pick out certain text and paragraphs, and based off another TXT file where they will be able to retrieve information from there, URLs as information, and very strategically place them as internal links on my document. Okay, so it involves having to upload 2 types of files. One is a document, one is a TXT file, and they will have to read through both files entirely to be able to understand the context of each of these links and information. So it might get complicated because of the number of words that's in the article as well. And again, this is basically for my day job, and it is essentially going to be replacing one of my daily tasks, which is what I'm trying to incorporate into my workflow so that I can ease off some time to do other more meaningful work. But in any case, here is my prompt, here's my custom instructions. I have basically took all the best practice of how to build internal links, reverse engineer it to create a persona. This persona whose name is an internal link architect, and he possesses a keen eye for detail, excel at identifying key content within articles, and is an adept at crafting connections between different pieces of content, right, to enhance navigational structure and SEO performance. Then again, these are the rules that I require them to follow, or rather require this AI persona to follow. So again, all these will be pasted down in the description below. If you're an SEO like me and you want to use some of these, please do feel free to go ahead and just copy them. And then moving back to the other options here, all I'm going to do is to run a prompt. Before that, let me just attach my document. So this is an article that I've written using AI as well. Just to make sure that they are working, I'm just going to get them to do a summarization. Okay, I'm just going to run this just to make sure that they are working, right? Okay, so it's great because just a couple of hours ago, I'm having difficulty running this, right? And it's not really reading my content. But at least now it's working. It's running through and giving me a summary of this article, which is pretty good. Now what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to paste this prompt. I'm going to change up this prompt a little bit, right? Because I'm also having problems to get the AI to retrieve information from my internal links file, okay? So I'm just going to keep it simple first by just giving it 5 links. Here are the internal links, okay? I'm just going to keep it really simple. I'm just going to be doing 5 links first, okay? So I'm going to give them these 5 links. One is a register page, and then I'm going to give them also 4 other articles to link to. So this is basically from my own company site, right? And by creating this article, I just want to make sure that it will run through this Aptos article, which is this one here, and then it breaks it down into chunks, run through the chunks to find potential internal links opportunity, and then add the links into the passage and provide in markdown format. And then of course, these are some rules over here that is reiterated from my custom instructions because these are very important rules, and I just give them 5 internal links. So I'm just going to run this and see if it works. Okay, so here it is. They have added the links for me, and they actually spit out the entire content, which I think is not too bad, right? And they have also added the link here as well under the sign up, right? Okay, so yeah, it seems to be working. I've used a relative URL, hence you will see that it's under OpenAI's domain, right? But if I were to copy this onto my own blog, it will show my own website. So technically this is working. Right now, I just want to verify that this is exactly the sentence that I've used in my content. So I'm going to open up my content in my window over here. Okay, so this is the content that I have. I just need to verify this by copying a section of it and just pasting it in to see if the text actually exists here. Okay, so it seems like the text doesn't exist. It could be that they have added this portion in, right? Okay, I do have this part. It's weird why I couldn't find. It seems that they added the whole sentence here. Okay, so it rewritten some of my content, which is not something that I want. All right, and I'm going to try this again. And instead of directly creating a summary, I'll just run this prompt right off the bat. Okay, so I'm just going to clear this chat and I'm going to try it a second time. So let's put this here. I'm going to add in one more thing, which is do not rewrite the content. All right, so here are the internal links. Okay, I'm just going to attach my article. Okay, and I'm just going to run this. So the idea is that in the previous experiment, I didn't quite like it because they rewrite certain sentence to input the links inside. Although the rewritten part is pretty good, it's not badly written in any ways. But if I've already written content, I don't wish that it will be rewritten just to add this in, right? Okay, so over here is the key takeaways. Let me just search this quickly to see if it's in my content at all. Yes, okay, so layer 1 blockchain with innovative features. So, okay, so it did added the internal link in the key takeaways under official channels, as well as they added in the register page, right? So get involved in purchasing APT tokens. This line, let's see if it's the same. Yep, it's exactly the same. So this is pretty good. Imagine a world where blockchain industry is disrupted. Okay, so let me just copy a quick sentence to see if it's the exact same line. Yep, so it just added in the internal link. Okay, same for the ones below if I'm not wrong. Yep, exactly the same. Yep. All right, so it repeated the link twice if I'm not wrong, because this is already done above here. Yep, because of the keyword, I think, but it did a pretty good job, right? So if you're an SEO, you will understand how critical this is, because it is able to save me a bunch of time now that I can key in internal links and just upload the article that I've created, and it will just place the links in for me, right? So the next thing that I'm going to try is, instead of putting in just 5 links, I'm going to add in a whole bunch of internal links from my older content. So the content that already exists in my website, I'm going to put in a whole bunch of them, and I'm going to upload it into a file and then upload my article and get it to do the same task. But this time around, there are way more links. There's like over 1,000 articles for them to sort it out and place internal links based on proper context, which previously we will need a human to do it. I'm hoping that it will work so that I can cut like a whole bunch of time on work and spend more time on other useful stuff. So let me clear this, and I'm just going to upload my internal links file, okay, and save this. Let me just run through this prompt one more time. Your task is to break the AppToS article down into chunks, read it through and find potential internal link opportunities, add the links into the passage and provide it in markdown format. Remember, internal links should only be used once. Do not force, do not rewrite the content. Okay, let me just make this a little bit perfect. To find all the internal links, please retrieve them from the internal links -to text file. Now I'm going to attach my article, and I'll make a copy of this prompt in case it goes wrong and run this. Okay, so in my previous attempt, I failed miserably. There seems to be an error. I'm not sure, is it because the task is too huge and it timed out? Hopefully this run, I'm able to get it out, or at least a portion of it out. There you have it, the same error that I received, which is processing too much requests. Right now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the tokenizer, right? I am kind of like questioning the context window that they say that they are able to provide, which is the 128,000 context window size, right? But in this case, whenever I upload something really huge, it tends to time out, or it tends to get into this error. So I'm seriously questioning whether or not this 128K is true. So I am going to copy out internal links, and I'm going to just paste it inside here just to see how much token it requires. It seems that it's way past the limits. Let me just remove part of it, right? Okay, this 11,500. It's seriously a little bit weird because let me just delete more parts of it. Nope. Okay, yeah, 15K. All right, so I'm just going to put these back in, right? I'm going to put this back in. I'm going to create a new file. I'm just going to call it internal links-3.txt. Okay, now the tokens required for this file is just 15,000, right? The entire context window is 128K. I'm just using a small fraction of it. Okay, so I'm just going to re-upload the new file. Okay, let's see if it works. Let's run it. Okay, I don't think it's going to succeed because it's taking too long. Yeah, again, there are just too many requests. I'm going to try one last method and see if it works. So there is an additional function, which is this add button over here. So add and run means you will then prompt and execute the AI to respond, right? But adding it is just adding it into the thread, which is for context. So I'm just going to try something like that. Here are my internal links. I'm just going to copy all my internal links and paste it here. Okay, I'm going to add. Right, so there you have it. Again, one validation error for request body content entry value has 32,000 characters and so on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy out maybe a huge chunk of it and leave the rest out. All right, let me clear this again. Here are my internal links. Okay, so technically I feel the context window thing maybe it's not fully rolled out yet. Okay, so at least this chunk of text it works. And then now I'm just going to paste in my prompt to get it to refer from the top. Okay, so I'm going to paste in the same exact prompt. Okay, and I'm going to attach my article. Okay, this time around, instead of adding, I'm going to add and run. Let's hope it doesn't time out this time around, because I've placed quite a fair bit of internal links on the top, so it will have to find context for me, which doing it manually actually takes quite a lot of time. And we will have human errors as well, as we might actually forego some links, or we might not pick out some links. But this time around, I'm using a system and an AI to do it for me. So it's supposed to be scanning through every single text, which I've got it to break it down into chunks. It should read through every single line of my article and give it to me, which is pretty good. Hopefully it worked. Although the formatting is out, but doesn't matter, because more importantly is whether this makes sense or not. Well, right off the bat, it doesn't. It also messed up my content a little bit. Let me just verify this on my article. Right. It's interesting that they actually link jump crypto hurdles to my article on trapped in the crypto bubble. As you can see on the left hand corner over here, you would have to ignore the URL in front because I'm using a relative URL and not an absolute URL. So this article, they kind of like link it to the article title, Are We Currently Trapped in the Crypto Bubble? Which, okay, it does make a little bit of sense since it's jump crypto hurdles. And then these keyword Aptos crypto space, they actually link it to Algorand, which is another coin. I don't really think that's right. And then for layer 1 blockchain market, they actually link it to layer 1 versus layer 2, which, okay, pretty good. Web3 space as an anchor text, they actually link me up to APR versus APY crypto, which again, context is wrong. So, well, you can see that, yes, it is pretty powerful because it's now taking context and it's pulling in whatever that is necessary to build up the links for me. And the great thing is it didn't change my article at all. It's sticking to the same article. However, not all the anchor text is really relevant to the link that they are pushing the user to. So I would say maybe it needs more fine-tuning or training to really have a good understanding, or maybe even function calling, right? To have a better understanding of the topic. It seems like it does work, but it's not the best, right? It could be that I have too much links, right? So they are only taking the top portion. It seems like it is, because I've noticed quite a lot of content is only from the top portion. Yeah. So failed attempt, but I'm really quite impressed with how they are able to recognize some of these relevance to the links that they are going to. At the very least, they are not rewriting my content and they are just sticking to one external link per article. So I think it's a pretty good attempt, although it failed, but I think this new function is really good. Hopefully this can be better improved. I might explore this a little bit more, maybe tweak my prompts a little bit more. Of course, again, feel free to use all these prompts. I'll put all these into a document and I'll place them in the description below. Alright, so I will be creating a lot more assistant moving forward. I will create things like maybe more meta description titles using best practices, looking for external links and placing these external links based on context in the article itself, and maybe even creating key takeaways of the articles. So I will be creating quite a fair bit of these assistants to help me in my work. And of course, as I'm creating these AI assistants, if I find any of them useful, I will start doing some videos on that and share it with you guys. Do let me know in the comment section if you want to see more of these AI assistants in action. That said, as I've mentioned earlier in the introduction, Openai has released a lot of new, very powerful capabilities and functions as well. If you are a ChatGPT Plus user, in the next couple of weeks, these new functions will be rolled out to you as well. And this custom GPT may very well easily overshadow our AI assistant function in Playground over here, because now you will be able to create your own customized GPT, or you can use what other creators have created. And I have really seen some really powerful use cases, and some of these early access users, they have created various custom GPT. Like one of the prominent prompts that I've always been using that is created by Nick Adobos in his Twitter page, he has already created his prompt into a custom GPT where you can just use it right off the bat if you're a ChatGPT Plus user. So essentially, you could run very customized tasks or replace some of your work with these AI functions. Hence, it's going to be really exciting. And of course, if you find this video useful, do give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. In the next couple of videos, I might delve in more onto creating various AI assistants that is able to help me with my work and hopefully benefit you as well. Or I might just do some videos on AutoGen, which I've been exploring for the past couple of weeks. And if the new ChatGPT functions has been rolled out to me, I will start sharing and experimenting firsthand and create videos on that as well. So do stay tuned for these updates and stay safe.